You weren't born doubting yourself. That's learned. And if it's learned, it can be unlearned. The truth is the mind is always listening to your words, listening to your habits, listening to your fears. The mind is like a powerful GPS, but if you keep typing in destinations of fear, uncertainty, and self-doubt, don't be surprised when it leads you in circles. Never doubt. Mindset isn't some superhero gift reserved for the elite. It's built brick by brick through small moments where you decide to believe, even when there's no evidence yet. Especially when there's no evidence, that moment you wake up and don't feel like doing the work, but you show up anyway. That's when it's built. That moment you hear the voice saying, what if you fail? And you take the shot anyway, that's when it's built. You're training your brain every day, whether you realize it or not. So the question is, you training it to hesitate or to dominate? Let me be clear, doubt isn't the enemy, passivity is. Doubt will always whisper, but action silences it. You want to stop doubting yourself? Start proving yourself to yourself. Stack the evidence. It starts small. One decision, one phone call, one workout, one uncomfortable conversation. Do the thing that the doubting voice says you can't, and it begins to shrink. And here's the truth that most people never realize. Certainty is not the result of success. It's the cause. People think they'll become confident after they win. That's backwards. You decide to be certain before the results come. And that decision fuels the actions that create success. That's how it works. This is where language becomes your most powerful tool or your worst enemy. If you keep saying things like, I hope, I'll try, maybe, you are planting seeds of hesitation. You are giving yourself an escape route before you even start. But when you say, I will, I must, it's done. Your brain locks into a different gear. It stops looking for options and starts finding solutions. Change your words. Change your outcome. And let's not forget the pictures in your head, the images you play over and over. If you only see what could go wrong, what failed last time, what people might say, your nervous system starts pulling the brakes. If you vividly imagine yourself crushing it, seeing every detail, feeling the emotion of the win, locking into the vision with full body certainty, your body begins to move like it's inevitable. That's not fake it till you make it. That's training your brain to believe before the world does. Finally, and this one is non-negotiable, guard your environment. You can't build an unstoppable mindset surrounded by people who normalize weakness, who glorify quitting, or who play the victim. Your circle is either pulling you forward or dragging you down. Raise your standard for what you allow around you. If you want a never doubt mindset, immerse yourself in people who live with boldness, who operate with fire, who challenge you to rise. Iron sharpens iron, so if you're waiting for the day you finally feel ready, stop. Create readiness through repetition. Certainty is trained, confidence is earned, but it's all available right now. The moment you decide to stop negotiating with fear and start committing to action, because the never doubt mindset is not about being perfect. It's about being committed. It's about doing it anyway, every single day. And if you do that long enough, doubt won't even recognize you anymore. Your mind doesn't respond to truth. It responds to repetition. And once you understand that, you gain an incredible amount of power, because most people are trying to fix their mindset by thinking a few positive thoughts or watching one motivational video and expecting it to erase a lifetime of self-doubt, insecurity, and limiting beliefs. Your mind isn't changed through occasional inspiration. It's changed through consistent programming. Every single day, you're feeding your mind something. Whether you know it or not, you're reinforcing a story. The story is, I'm not good enough, or things never work out for me, or I always mess things up. Then your brain will find ways to make that story true. Not because it is true, but because the mind hates conflict, wants harmony between your beliefs and your reality. So it will filter your focus, your behavior, and your interpretation of events to match what you believe, even if that belief is destroying you. Let's break this down. If you've ever doubted yourself in a big moment that didn't come out of nowhere, it wasn't just fear. That doubt had been rehearsed, repeated, fed over time through internal dialogue, past experiences, emotional memories that were never challenged. That voice in your head that says, what if I'm not ready? Or what if I fail? That's not instinct. That's programming. And whatever you repeat long enough, your brain accepts as fact. Now here's the breakthrough. If the mind accepts repetition, then you can feed it a different story. Not once, not when you feel like it, but consistently with certainty and with emotional intensity. Because repetition alone is not enough. Emotion locks it in. When you combine words with feeling, your nervous system goes, this matters, and starts to wire it in as part of your identity. Think about it. How do people become filled with self-doubt? Usually it's because they've replayed past failures or criticisms over and over with emotion. They feel the pain again. They feel the rejection. They feel the embarrassment. And that emotion tells their brain, never let this happen again. So what happens? The next time they get close to success, their mind pulls the brake. It tries to protect them from repeating pain, even if it means sabotaging growth. But you can reverse that. You can intentionally feed your mind strength. You can choose what to focus on. You can build a case for your greatness. Instead of constantly building a case against it, it starts by interrupting the old pattern. When that voice of doubt rises up, don't negotiate with it, replace it. Immediately, don't argue with it, override it with new language, new focus, and new action. You speak with power. You stand up taller. You remember a win, a breakthrough, where you push through and you relive it. You speak from it, you feel it again. And you tell your brain, this is who I am now. If you do that daily, something shifts. Slowly at first. You begin to catch yourself in moments where the old version of you would have hesitated. But this time you lean in, you take the call, you apply anyway, you ask for the meeting, you do the workout. Then you notice something powerful. That voice of doubt doesn't disappear immediately, but it starts to lose its power because you stop listening. You stop feeding it, and it starts to starve. What you feed grows. What you starve dies. If you keep feeding your mind excuses, fear, negativity, and limitation, don't be surprised when that becomes your dominant mindset. But if you feed it vision, power, clarity, truth, action, and ownership, that becomes who you are. Not because you suddenly feel for it, but because you've trained it to be so. You've conditioned it. Just like a muscle, your mindset grows with repetition, pressure, and discipline. And here's the truth that separates those who rise from those who stay stuck. Most people only feed their minds when they feel good. But the strongest people do it when they don't feel like it. When they're tired, when they've failed. Everything says, give up. They still show up. That's when identity is forged. That's when belief becomes unshakable. So ask yourself, what am I feeding my mind day after day? What am I rehearsing, speaking, imagining, acting out in my daily life? Because that's what you're becoming. And if you want to build a never doubt mindset, you have to feed that belief like your life depends on it. Because in many ways it does. Train your mind like it's a life or death mission. Because the story you repeat is the life you will live. Most people wait for proof before they believe. They wait for success to feel confident. They wait for applause before they act like they matter. Life doesn't work that way. Certainty isn't something that just shows up one day like a surprise package at your door. It's not gifted to you by your circumstances. It's something you install. Like a muscle, it's developed through repetition. It becomes a habit. You've seen it in people. Some walk into a room and they don't say a word, but their presence commands attention. Why? Because they radiate certainty. They've built it. And on the other side, you see people with talent, skill, even brilliance, but they hesitate, they shrink, they second guess. Not because they aren't good enough, but because they haven't made certainty a standard. It's not a habit for them yet. That gap makes all the difference. Certainty begins as a decision. You decide right now that no matter how unclear the road is, no matter how many unknowns are ahead, you are certain that you will figure it out. That is not arrogance. That is trust. Trust in your ability to adapt. Trust in your capacity to grow. Trust that you will not fold when life gets hard, you will rise. But the decision alone isn't enough. Because just like anything, the world is going to test your certainty. Life will ask you, are you sure? And it won't ask you once. It'll ask you over and over, through rejection, through failure, through the moments where no one's clapping for you. That's when most people break. They think, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. But what they don't understand is that moment right there is where certainty is built, not when it's easy, not when everything's flowing. Certainty is forged when things fall apart and you still choose belief. You must train certainty like a daily ritual. Just like brushing your teeth or training your body, you install it into your nervous system until it becomes automatic. You speak it, you act from it. You hold your body like someone who's already won, not someone who's trying to prove themselves. And that shift in posture, that shift in energy becomes the new normal. That's what separates the few who lead from the many who follow. It's also important to realize that you don't need certainty in the outcome. You need certainty in yourself. If your confidence depends on external wins, your mindset will always be fragile. But if it comes from within, if it's based on your unshakable resolve to do what it takes, to grow no matter what, then nobody can take that from you. That kind of certainty is not situational. It's internal, it's chosen, it can be accessed anytime, especially when it's hardest. There's another trap people fall into. They think that to be certain, they need to have all the answers. That's a lie. Certainty doesn't mean you know everything. It means you're confident you'll figure it out as you go. Think of the greatest innovators, leaders, and trailblazers. They stepped into territory no one had mapped. They didn't have a perfect plan. What they had was unshakable conviction. That energy, that absolute certainty, is what attracted the people, the resources, the momentum. People follow certainty. They don't follow confusion. And the more certain you are, the more you magnetize solutions. Now think about your own life. Think about the areas where you've hesitated, where you've doubted, where you've held back. Was it because you lacked talent or because you lacked certainty? Be honest. Most of the time we know what to do. We know the call to make, the step to take, the opportunity to grab, but we pause. And in that hesitation, we lose the moment. That hesitation is the cost of an uncertain mind. But you can reverse that right now. Make certainty your new baseline. Start with your language. Soft talk. Replace I'll try with I will. Replace I hope with it's done. Even when the result hasn't shown up yet, speak as if it has. That isn't delusion. It's creation. Because your brain is listening. It begins to reorganize your beliefs, your focus, your body language, your expectations around that new level of certainty. That creates a cascade of new behavior. And new behavior is what gets new results. Don't wait for confidence to come find you. Don't wait for perfect clarity. Move forward in faith. The road will unfold as you walk it. And as you continue to show up again and again with total certainty, Not because everything is perfect, because you are committed. The world begins to respond. You stop chasing outcomes and start creating them. That's the power of certainty, not as a gift, but as a discipline, a practice, a habit, one that changes everything. That voice in your head that tells you you're not ready, that you're not enough, that you'll probably mess it up again, it isn't truth. It's not wisdom. It's a leftover echo from moments in your life when you froze, failed, feared the consequences. That voice is not who you are. It's who you used to be, still trying to speak. And as long as you give it the microphone, it will keep running the show. But here's the truth. The way to silence that inner critic isn't by arguing with it. You don't negotiate with fear. You outwork it. You outmove it. You bury it in evidence. You want to kill doubt? Move. You want to crush hesitation? Take action. Because action is the loudest answer to insecurity. When you act, even if it's messy, even if it's awkward, even if it's just one small step, you are building evidence that the old voice in your head was wrong. You're showing your nervous system that you don't need to wait for confidence. You create it by showing up. Most people spend their lives trying to think their way into belief. They wait until they feel ready before they take action. Here's what no one tells you. Readiness is a result, not a requirement. Confidence comes after motion. Courage is the decision to move in spite of fear. If you sit there waiting for the fear to disappear, still be sitting there 10 years from now with the same dream, the same excuses, and the same doubt running your life. But the moment you decide to act, something changes. You do one thing your old self would have avoided. Now there's a crack in the armor of that inner critic. You speak up when you used to stay quiet. You apply when you used to overthink. You get on the treadmill when the lazy version of you would have stayed in bed. That's one piece of evidence. Stack it, because the more evidence you create, the quieter the critic becomes. Think of it like a courtroom. Your brain is the judge, and you've got two lawyers presenting arguments, one for belief, one for doubt. The inner critic is always showing up with past failures, past pain, reasons why it won't work. But what evidence are you giving the other side? If you aren't acting, you're handing the critic the win by default. But the moment you act, you start flipping the case. You're saying, no, here's proof that I do show up. Here's proof I can be consistent. Here's proof I can face fear and still take the shot. And the more proof you stack, the more the verdict changes. You want to transform how you think? Start tracking your wins, not just the big ones, especially the small ones. Every time you take a step your past self would have avoided, write it down. That's psychological leverage. That's identity building. Because your identity doesn't shift from what you say. It shifts from what you do repeatedly. And when you start seeing yourself as someone who acts in the face of fear, someone who follows through no matter what, someone who takes imperfect action again and again, that's when the critic has nothing left to say. You have to remember that the critic was formed in a different version of you. Maybe when you were hurt. Maybe when you were rejected. Maybe when something didn't go your way. And it recorded that pain as a warning. It thinks it's keeping you safe. But what it's really doing is keeping you small. And the only way to rewire that program is to show your brain over and over, I'm not that person anymore. I've evolved. I've stepped up. I've acted. I've proven that I can handle what's on the other side of discomfort. But this only works if you stay consistent. Active courage won't rewrite a lifetime of hesitation, but daily acts will. Daily decisions, daily movement. That's how you crush the critic, not in one loud moment, but in dozens of quiet ones where you choose growth over comfort, effort over ease, progress over perfection. Every time you act in alignment with your higher standard, you're voting against that old voice. Every time you do what your fear tells you not to do, you're building a new identity. And eventually, the voice of the critic gets replaced with the voice of a champion, because now your brain has new evidence, new wiring, a new reference for who you are. So don't wait to feel bulletproof. You become bulletproof by acting while you're still shaking. Move forward again and again. Build that wall of evidence so high that the voice of doubt can no longer climb it. That's how belief is born. That's how the critic is destroyed. That's how the next version of you finally takes over. The words you speak shape the reality you live in. Most people think language is just a way to describe the world, but that's not how the brain sees it. Language doesn't describe, it programs. It's the command center of your nervous system. Every time you speak, especially with emotion, you are giving instructions to your mind and body on how to think, feel, and act. And the problem is, people are using language that weakens them and they don't even know it. Think about how often you hear people say, I'm just not good at this, or I can't handle this right now, or this is killing me. They think it's harmless. Your subconscious doesn't take it lightly. It listens, it believes. And over time, it begins to shape your identity based on those repeated phrases. If every day you tell yourself you're overwhelmed, then guess what? You will feel overwhelmed, even when the workload is light. If you keep saying, I never catch a break, your brain filters out opportunities that prove otherwise. The words become the lens, and the lens becomes the prison. You cannot build an unshakable mindset while poisoning your system with language that creates doubt, limitation, and fear. It's impossible. You have to become aware of what's coming out of your mouth, especially when you're under pressure, because those moments reveal your true programming. When stress hits, do you say, this always happens to me? Or do you say, this is just a challenge and I grow through challenges? One phrase creates paralysis. The other triggers your resourcefulness. And it's not just the words you say out loud, it's the ones you whisper to yourself. The inner dialogue, the quiet sentences that run in the background, they're the real architects of your identity. If your self-talk is filled with hesitation, apology, doubt, or smallness, you'll find your actions start to match that script. But when your inner language reflects belief, power, certainty, and purpose, you start to show up like someone who deserves to win. Language creates emotional states. Say, I'm exhausted. And your shoulders drop, your breathing slows, your energy drains. Say, I'm fired up. And suddenly your posture shifts. Mind sharpens, your voice strengthens. And nothing outside of you changed, only the words. That's the power you have access to every single day. You can speak strength into your system, or you can speak defeat. The choice is yours. The best performers in the world, in business, sports, leadership, they all use language as a tool. They program their minds with power phrases, not because they're trying to lie to themselves, because they understand that beliefs are created through repetition. The same way a lie told enough times becomes accepted as truth, a strong affirmation repeated with emotion becomes a belief. That's not magic, that's neuroscience. You've got to replace weak language with strong language. I hope I can becomes I will, I'll try becomes I must. I'm not sure becomes it's already mine. Because when you speak like that, even if it feels uncomfortable at first, your brain starts to shift. It starts to believe. And belief changes behavior. When you truly believe something, your body moves differently. You speak differently. You take risks. You persist. You rise. This isn't about pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's about telling a stronger truth. The truth that you are more capable than your fear, more resilient than your past, more powerful than your current circumstances. It's about owning your identity as someone who overcomes, someone who grows, someone who wins, not someday, but right now. If you've been stuck in a loop of self-doubt, don't try to think your way out of it. Speak your way out of it. Create a new rhythm of language in your life. Wake up and declare your direction. In the mirror, say what you want with certainty. Before a challenge, declare your capability. Before a presentation, speak power into your presence. This isn't hype. This is strategic reprogramming. Because language isn't neutral. Every word you say is either reinforcing the old version of you or activating the next level. And when you change the words you use, just speak differently, you live differently. So ask yourself, what kind of language am I using when no one's watching? What script have I been repeating for years without realizing it? And what would happen if, starting today, rewrote that script line by line, word by word, into one that serves me, strengthens me, and sets me free? The shift doesn't require a miracle, just a decision. One phrase at a time, one day at a time. And if you stay consistent, your language will do what it's always done. Rewire your brain, reshape your identity, and redirect your destiny. The mind doesn't know the difference between something vividly imagined and something actually experienced. That's the power most people never use. Visualization is not some fluffy self-help trick. It's a tool for rewiring the nervous system to act as if the future is already happening. And when done with emotional intensity and consistency, visualization becomes a kind of pre-commitment. It trains your body, your emotions, and your belief to show up in alignment with a vision that hasn't even happened yet, but already feels real. When you visualize, you're not just daydreaming. Practicing, you're preparing your nervous system for what's coming. You're creating mental blueprints that your body wants to follow. Top athletes do it before every game. Fighters do it before every match. Leaders do it before every major move. They see it again and again because they know that when the moment comes, their mind has already been there. The decision has already been made. There's no hesitation, no second guessing, just execution. The average person, though, doesn't use this. They let their mind run on autopilot, and instead of visualizing success, they visualize failure. They replay every mistake, every rejection, every what-if scenario that creates fear, doubt, and hesitation. They don't even realize it. They think they're being cautious. No, they're conditioning their nervous system to avoid action. They're programming themselves to hold back. But here's what happens when you flip the script. You close your eyes and see your goal already accomplished. When you feel the emotion as if you've already arrived. When you hear the sounds, see the reactions, experience the win as though it's already yours. Something powerful unlocks. Your brain starts to organize your focus around that outcome. It becomes less of a hope and more of a target. Less of a maybe and more of a must. What people don't realize is that the brain is constantly looking for cues for what to value, to act on, what to ignore. Visualization gives it a cue that says this matters. This is real. This is who I am becoming. It creates alignment between your current state and your future result. And when the two are aligned, the body moves differently. You start speaking with more conviction. You start taking risks. You start preparing like it's already done. That's not fake confidence. That's neural alignment. If you've ever wondered why some people walk into a room and own it, it's because they already saw themselves doing it. They've practiced it internally until it became natural externally. They don't stumble because the moment isn't unfamiliar. It's already been rehearsed. And that kind of internal rehearsal builds certainty. It builds poise. It builds speed. You react faster because your mind is no longer confused. It's already chosen. You can use this for anything. before a difficult conversation, before stepping on stage, before launching that business, before making the sale, before facing the challenge that normally triggers you to shrink. Don't just think about it. Feel it. Just see yourself doing it. Be there. Embody the result. And when you open your eyes, your nervous system will start acting as if it's already done. But this isn't a one-time thing. Visualization is a discipline, a practice, something you do every day, especially when fear kicks in, because fear will try to hijack your imagination. It'll try to show you pictures of loss, pain, embarrassment, and failure. And if you let that movie play, you'll hesitate. You can interrupt it. You can change the scene. You can say, no, that's not the vision I'm choosing, and replace it with one that pulls you forward, one that strengthens you instead of weakening you. You've got to visualize like your future depends on it, because it does. Your imagination is the most powerful tool you own, and you've got to take it back, direct it, command it, make it work for you, not against you. Let the past keep hijacking the pictures of your future, draw new ones, cleavered ones, feel them in your body, anchor them in an emotion, and then go out into the world and match what you've already experienced inside. Because here's the truth. When you live the vision before it becomes reality, you collapse the gap between the two. You no longer act like a beginner. You act like it's yours. You don't beg, you lead. You don't hope, you execute. That's what the most powerful people do. They've lived the moment hundreds of times in their mind before the world ever saw it happen. That's not luck. That's mental conditioning. That's pre-commitment. And if you want to stop doubting yourself, start showing your mind where you're going before the world even sees the path. That's the secret to unstoppable belief. That's how you win the battle before it begins. You can have all the goals, all the drive, all the affirmations, all the plans in the world. But if your environment doesn't support your growth, eventually your fire will burn out. Because your mindset is not just a product of your inner work. It's also constantly influenced by what surrounds you. You're around, what you listen to, what you allow into your space. Your environment isn't neutral. It either strengthens your belief or silently drains it. And the most dangerous part is most people never realize that it's their environment that's keeping them small. You could be doing the deep work. You could be rewiring your thinking, working on your discipline, trying to develop a never doubt mindset. But if the people around you normalize self-pity, if they roll their eyes at ambition, if they question your vision, then guess what? That energy bleeds into your system. Doubt is contagious. So is mediocrity. So is fear. And if you keep breathing in that air, eventually it starts clouding your focus. You begin to question things you were once certain about. You begin to hesitate where you used to move boldly. Not because you've changed, but because your environment is reinforcing the wrong signals. Conviction needs reinforcement. It needs to be fueled, not just internally, but externally. You've got to be surrounded by people who fan your fire, not smother it. People who challenge your thinking, not belittle your dreams. People who speak about possibility like it's normal, not fantasy. That kind of environment creates a different standard. It becomes harder to doubt yourself when you're surrounded by people who expect you to rise, not because they pressure you, but because they live at that level themselves. And when you see it around you, when you feel it in the room, something in you refuses to settle. Now, here's the reality. You can't always choose your environment completely. Maybe you've got family members who don't get it, friends you grew up with who still operate on old mindset, workers who complain about everything but do nothing to change. That's real. But just because you can't escape it doesn't mean you have to absorb it. You can raise the frequency in any environment by being intentional, but being the thermostat, not the thermometer. You don't reflect the energy around you. You set it. That starts by guarding your focus. You have to treat your mind like a sacred space. Be ruthless about what gets in. That means controlling what you consume, the conversations you entertain, the media you watch, the content you scroll through. If your feed is filled with drama, negativity, comparison, and distraction, don't be shocked when your belief system starts to weaken. You become what you consume. Feed your mind with greatness, and greatness becomes your baseline. Feed it with garbage, and confidence becomes impossible. It's not just about content. It's about people. It's about people. You've got to take a hard look at your circle. Are they building you or breaking you? Are they speaking life into your vision or injecting quiet doubt? Are they hungry or just comfortable? More importantly, what version of you do they expect? If the people closest to you expect the old version of you, you'll keep shrinking to fit that mold even if you've outgrown it. That's why growth sometimes feels lonely. Because rising to the next level often requires letting go of relationships that were built for the past version of you. But don't let that scare you. Because the moment you clear space, the right people start showing up. The ones who inspire you to level up. The ones who speak your language. The ones who challenge you, push you, and remind you who you really are. And when you find that environment, even if it's just one person, one mentor, community, you anchor yourself in a space where conviction becomes natural, where doubt doesn't stand a chance. So if you're serious about building a never doubt mindset, stop only looking inward, start looking around. Audit your environment, audit your circle, audit your inputs. If it doesn't serve your future, it doesn't belong. And when you create a space physically, mentally, emotionally, that supports your highest self, everything changes. You move differently, speak differently, show up with more force, more presence, more belief. Not because you're forcing it, but because it's supported by everything around you. That's how you build conviction that lasts. Not in isolation, not by grinding alone, by stepping into an environment that calls out the giant in you and refuses to let you play small.